Whenever somebody asks me what the hard part about writing is, I usually say it's choosing names. I know that sounds ridiculous because it shouldn't be the hardest part. The hardest part should ideally be making a plot line, but that's not always the case, especially for me. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be all about choosing names for your characters. Now you guys really have to admit, choosing names for your characters can be the biggest pain in the ass in the world, and it is definitely by no means an easy task to do. Sometimes we end up choosing names that aren't very appropriate for our character or the situations or even the setting. And I know when that happens, it can be so annoying and even devastating when you have to come up with a whole new name, and it's just a pain sometimes. Hopefully you guys can find some comfort in this video because today I'm going to be sharing some of my tips on how I decide on character names. My first tip is to make sure that you know which world your story is taking place in. Is your story taking place in the present realistic world, or is there some sort of futuristic element to it? Are we diving in different dimensions, or are we just creating our own world? These questions are really important to consider, especially since they are so vital in creating character names. For example, although Sarah is a very pretty name and a very common name in our realistic world, I don't really know if it'll be super appropriate if you're writing from the perspective of a futuristic society. If we are writing about a futuristic society, maybe you want to consider more futuristic sounding names, kind of like Astro or Gage or Nova, etc., etc. This is by no means necessary, however, it really does help the reader get more into the story, and it just makes the story more believable. Now my second tip is to know your genre. And this kind of falls back into the first tip. It's kind of the same ordeal. You really want to know which type of genre you're writing in. For example, if you're writing a fantasy novel, you should be interested in fantasy-like names. Now I know this could be hard, especially since most contemporary novels kind of do share common contemporary names. However, things like romance novels, there are specific type of names that could be designated to those things. If you were writing a romance novel, you might want to stick to more softer, sweeter names like Autumn or Drew or Ella, only because they play off better in your novel and it really just connects the reader more to your novel. Now my third tip is to make sure the name is culturally appropriate. If you're writing about a protagonist from the UK, you should really want to find a name that is suiting and kind of popular within that area. This, however, does play with any other kind of countries or cultures you are writing from. For example, you wouldn't give your protagonist from China a really stereotypically American name, now would you? In order for this to work, you would really have to have a reason behind the name. You'd have to probably give a little bit backstory, and it would just create a whole other plot line that might take your story completely elsewhere. This is really necessary, especially if you are not trying to offend your readers, because that can be kind of offensive reading a story, seeing a name that doesn't really connect with the culture. So you really just have to be mindful of those types of decisions that you make. I'd recommend creating names that are relatively common or, of use in that region of the world that you were writing about. My fourth tip is to consider the timelines. You really want to make sure the names are appropriate for the time period you were writing from, especially if it is from the past. For example, if you're writing from the 17th century, I don't really think the names like Jamie or Aiden would be very appropriate. This is really just vital for believability of your story, to be honest with you. Now, this situation can be really tricky, especially if you are trying to write, historical fiction or whatever the case may be, because you really don't know, because obviously you weren't there. And this is when Google comes in handy. Now, my biggest tip when it comes to choosing names is to just use Google. Literally, all you have to type in is baby names, and I already know that most of you guys already do it, but really take advantage of these websites because they are on point all the time. What I like the most about a lot of these websites is that they really do have great customizable features where you could really find the kind of name you're looking for. Like I said, if you're looking for a 17th century European name, all you have to do is put that in there, choose the gender, and you can find names and you can choose from those lists. Now, besides those customized features, they really do categorize the names according to what you might be looking for specifically. This is according to, race and culture, even just some famous people names or just anything that you're looking for, they have on there, and it's just incredible. Whenever the name doesn't just come to me, I usually go on Google and I usually look up baby names, and I find my name like this. And it's honestly super fun too. I'm not even gonna lie, it is a little brain break, after spending hours of writing. Looking up names is just, I don't know, enjoyable because you are really putting a name to the face that you've created. Well guys, that is all I have for you today. I know it can be super difficult choosing names for your characters, but I really do hope that the tips I gave you kind of help. If they did, please let me know in the comments below. And as always, give this video a thumbs up and please hit the subscribe button because I post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I would love for you guys to be a part of my community. I also want to apologize for the poor quality and lighting. There's something clearly going on outside, so I'm sorry about that. But thank you so much for watching my video, and I will see you guys on Monday. Bye-bye!